to the Mental Money podcast. My name is Rossi. For anyone who doesn't know, I suffer from borderline personality disorder, and this is a disorder that is kind of unknown in today's day and age. Like, people have heard of it by now, but they don't really know what it's about, and they don't know what it entails. And it can be really, really hard for the people that are suffering from it, but it can also just be as hard for the people around them to try and understand what they are going through, or kind of think about how that person must be feeling, because it can get very confusing, especially for the person going through it. So the video that I wanted to post today, well, this morning, was what it entails, how it affects someone, and how it might affect someone on the receiving and the other end of it. Just to clear the water and hopefully clear some of the stigma around it, just so you know what is going on with the disorder. And obviously I've got a few little notes here that I can go through if I need to, but basically I got diagnosed a year ago, and I've been learning more and more about the disorder since then. But as soon as I got diagnosed with it, it was kind of the perfect match for me, because I had always been this way, but no doctor had really picked up on the fact that it was borderline. And borderline, for anyone who doesn't know, is obviously borderline personality disorder. This is a disorder of emotional instability, and the way they called it borderline is because it isn't just a psychological, it's not just like a disorder. It goes from, I think, psychological to a non-psychological disorder. It entails lots of different disorders, there's lots of different symptoms, and it can affect people differently, so it is quite new. It's also very under-researched, and there isn't specific medications out there for it yet. There's nothing really out there apart from therapy, which can be really, really useful. But a person with borderline personality disorder are usually quite emotionally unstable. They have a problem with detachment. They can go through bouts of psychosis. They can hallucinate. I'll get up some of the symptoms because they can get really bad. I know I get a few of these more than others. So it starts out with the 4 areas of symptoms: emotional instability, which is basically where you could be happy and then suddenly sad. So that's the only relation with bipolar to borderline. So that's the emotional instability. There's disturbed patterns of thinking. So the way you might kind of perceive something in a bad light. Someone might call you a narcissist, or oh, you're being so cynical about it. Do you know what I mean? That's a disturbed pattern of thinking, seeing things in that black and white, there's no in between. Sorry, I just bit my tongue for no reason. So that's the disturbed patterns of thinking. There's impulsive behavior, which is, I get this a lot, when you see something, you have to do it. If you get the thought in your head, you have to do it. It's like 3:45. I thought of this video, I had to do it. It has to be done. And it's the same with quite a lot of things. Like, say if you're shopping or something, this is where it could get pretty bad, because you end up spending a lot of money on maybe stuff you didn't really need. So that's the impulsive behavior. Intense but unstable relationships with others. This is connecting into the emotional instability. You can feel so attached to one person, and if they mess with your emotions, it can feel like the worst thing you'll ever go through in your life. I've got personal experience with this the whole way through my life, and it's very difficult to kind of explain how it feels, because It's just so extreme that it's just not normal. I hate the term where we're normalizing mental health, because it isn't normal, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Like, the people who suffer from it aren't bad. It's just not normal. A normal thinking pattern, a normal emotional kind of way, or kind of emotional storage system wouldn't kind of store those patterns. Do you know what I mean? So within emotional instability, if you have BPD, you may experience rage, sorrow, shame, panic, terror, long-term feelings of emptiness and loneliness, which, the way to put it is that you could be very, very angry about something. You could feel that fire in your soul, but it's not just fire in your soul. It's literally making you shake. It will be the most extreme feeling of rage you've ever felt, and the same down that list of the emotions you'll feel. Good explanation that I seen was people who have BPD are like babies born without emotional skin. And so they're correlating your shield, let's say, in life to emotions as skin, and we're born without that skin. So whenever you touch that person, they feel that worst set of emotion they could possibly feel every time, and that goes through the list of emotions there. The disturbed patterns of thinking, you could get upsetting thoughts such as thinking you're a terrible person or feeling you don't exist, like an existential crisis. You may not be sure of what these thoughts are. You could have brief episodes of strange experiences, such as hearing voices outside your head for minutes at a time. These often may be instructions to harm yourself or others. You may or may not be certain whether these are real. You could have prolonged experiences of normal experiences, so where you might experience both hallucinations, voices out your head, distressing beliefs that no one can talk you out of, such as believing your family are secretly trying to kill you. So that's a psychotic tendency. And this can be a sign that a person is becoming more unwell, because the psychosis is playing a bigger role. And this is the problem with borderline, that if you have borderline, you technically just don't have one disorder. You've got like a little bit of everything. Do you know what I mean? You've got such a long list of issues that you couldn't even put it in a video. So that's why they categorize it as borderline, because they're still needing to like confirm the evidence that we've got on it. And it's super difficult, because you can have these experiences of complete psychosis, and you might be passed off by a doctor as schizophrenic, or you might be passed off by a doctor as like completely psychotic, when you're really not. You're just having a psychotic episode, and these can come and go throughout the year. It could be annual, it could be to do with like the anniversary effect, it could be a trigger. All these things can equate into that. But I'm just saying that a psychotic breakdown might be a sign that you might be becoming more unwell, and you might need to seek a bit more attention. Impulsive behavior and impulse to self-harm. I'm not going to go through any more than what it's describing here, because it can be very triggering for people, and I respect that. A strong impulse to engage in reckless activities such as irresponsible activities, binge drinking, drug abuse, going on spending, gambling sprees, having unprotected sex with strangers. Well, that's all very terminology that I probably wouldn't be able to kind of say to the general public on YouTube, but you know, I'm reading this off the NHS website. So by the impulsive behavior, I would have said you're very likely, if you get a thought in your head, you're so likely to go and do that. The problem is that you don't see any restraint. The line that people have of restraint, we just don't see the line. We have to do it. It's kind of like when people say, oh, I was sent here to do this, you kind of feel like that in the moment, like, oh, I need this. Yeah, this is what I've been waiting for. You kind of play this little role in your head, like, say with this softbox, like, say if I seen it in a store, this moment I saw it and thought, I need that, it's getting bought. Because straight away, there's no self-restraint. I'm just like, that's exactly what I needed. I'll play all the things in my head of the reasons why I need that softbox. I need that softbox because not only is it cheap, it's well built, it's all this stuff, do you know what I mean? And that can play into your own mental health. So impulsive behaviors can be really, really bad in terms of drug abuse. I found that when I was a former drug addict myself. I'm open about it. For about 3-4 years, I was heavily addicted to many different drugs. And these actions were made worse by my BPD. I have an addictive personality. I also tend to kind of enjoy things that damage the body, let's say. That's just a self-sabotaging method. And I don't partake in those activities anymore because I'm trying my best to live as normal a life as possible. But people with BPD, you might engage in these activities, you might. And I for one did. And you need to be, I can't say need to be, you can be open about it. Don't feel afraid to be open about it. There's going to be people out there that may not believe you. There's going to be people that hate on it. There's going to be people at the end of the day. Just be honest with yourself and you'll be fine. I promise. So that's impulsive behavior. I spent a little too long on that one. Unstable relationships could be you're constantly texting or phoning a person you like, or maybe a friend that you just feel very attached to. Suddenly calling a person in the middle of the night. I don't really know anyone who does that, who has BPD, and I don't do it myself, but that doesn't mean that it's not a thing, so I can't really comment on it. Physically clinging onto a person or refusing to let go, that doesn't mean like physically, it could be physical, but more emotionally. So when you're in a relationship, it's very difficult to know when to let go. It's very difficult for that person to be able to let go because they feel like they're losing somewhat of their self, and they feel like past things are coming back and the same things are happening, and it's going to be the worst point in their life, and they're already in the worst point, so how could it get any worse? It's like this never-ending staircase downwards, and it can be very depressing for the person. Making threats to harm or kill themselves if a person ever leaves you. So this happened to me, and I'll be honest, I was in a relationship. I'm not gonna say anything more than I was in a relationship, and when that ended, I got worse and worse. I ended up on my own journey, felt so alone, and I tried killing myself a bunch of times. Ended up in a ward, and thankfully since then I've been making a lot of positive movements in my life. But that is confirmed evidence that it can make you feel that way. And there's no shame in it, because you are feeling the most intense, kind of extreme feeling of being scared, alone, abandoned, kind of like someone stabbed you in the back. You're going through all these emotions at once, so extreme for one person to deal with, and to deal with it alone is just one thing. And like, I just don't see how a person is naturally meant to be able to cope with that. But also, someone with BPD, I don't expect you to cope with that. I still don't know how to, and I use methods to not put myself in that position ever again. But I really, really just kind of express to people out there who are managing and keeping themselves well. If you have BPD and have gone through a breakup, I have so much respect for you, and I really hope you're doing well. I mean that with the bottom of my heart, because I know how difficult it can be, and I know the strength that you have is through the roof, like out of this world, because I see myself as a strong person, but that's one thing I just don't deal with very well at all, and it can be very, very lonely. And I'm not gonna act like I'm not lonely, because I am, and I'm just not afraid to admit that I am lonely, and I go through bouts of feeling like I'm on top of the world, and then feeling like I've been thrown in the dirt, and that's life. But I feel it a lot more, you know. People with BPD, they're living a normal life, but they feel it more, you know. They feel those emotions so much more, and these emotions can really affect the way a person goes about their life, like their future, how they plan things, how they're gonna go about making new relationships. These can all have detrimental effects on their future. This is why they need help. This is why they need support. This is why, if you have BPD, you might want to follow up some support. You might want to set a plan for the future. You might want to put things in place, because, like I say, it can be a very, very lonely disorder, because not many people have it. It's quite rare. But at the same time, there is people out there. You've just got to find them. And honestly, I'm in this group therapy at the moment, and knowing there's people there with BPD who can understand what you are going through, even though they don't understand on the personal level, it's just what you deal with BPD, can be such a benefit to you for not feeling alone in that circumstance, and just feeling like even now sat here, I know there's more people out there with this disorder, and that we're all going through it, but we're all gonna get better. Because if you just have the strength to get up in the morning and do your doctor's appointments, do your therapy, sort up the plans, like do these things that are gonna benefit you in the long run, then we are gonna keep progressing. Jordan Peterson said some of the smartest people he's ever met in life had borderline personality disorder, but they were self-sabotaging themselves from success. They were the smartest people, but there was that self-sabotage. And that's what we got to work past as a community, because I feel like people with borderline do have a much better sense of their emotions, because it's so in your face, it's so extreme, that it it would be impossible to not see it and not recognize it. It would be completely impossible, because the way we see things is different. The way we think about things is different. And I appreciate that. I appreciate it so much, because it's a different perspective. But I don't think we need to suffer. We don't need to suffer with the disorder. We need support from other people, and we need to support ourselves. There is communities out there for this. There's charities. There's the healthcare system. You just got to find what works for you. And I really, really hope, if you are suffering with this, I really, really hope you find that thing, because I'm slowly working towards finding that thing. And we're all on this journey, you know? And I feel like we're all here for a purpose. I don't want to get too philosophical. We're all here for a purpose, and we're all made different for a reason. And that's enough just to try and figure out the answers, you know? That's enough. But this might be one of my longest proper videos, just because I wanted to explain how that type of thing can feel. They're just the symptoms. And for someone on the receiving end, it can be very difficult for them, I would say, because they don't know how extreme you're feeling unless you tell them, and it's very difficult to tell them. The problem is when there's a lack of communication there, or the communication scrambled because you've come out with all this information and they can't process it in the same way you can. You process things differently to the way they would. And we've got to kind of word our sentences right, or like kind of they've got to work out how to decipher the information we give them, unless we put it in like the plain analogies, which isn't enough to describe what you're going through. So it can be very, very difficult for them. So I used to get really, really annoyed thinking, you don't understand. You just don't understand what I'm going through. And you're right. Well, I'm right. We're all right. They don't. They don't understand what we're going through. So help them understand. Because I'm not going to act like they've got the answers, but they've got support. And just having moral support is better than no moral support. You got to see, you got to enable the situation of one good thing to happen, rather than poo-pooing the whole situation and being like nothing good was going to happen anyway. Because if you poo-poo it, one good thing can't happen. Whereas if you at least try, one good thing might happen, but two bad things happen, you've at least got one good thing. You see what I'm saying? So it can be very difficult for them, but work with them, help them understand, and it will make it a lot easier for them. But I do really appreciate anyone who is trying to cope with someone with BPD. It can be a very traumatic, difficult experience on your end. Just bear with the person, you know? They've got so much going on. They're trying to process so much information. They're trying to word so much in a way you might be able to understand. They're trying. They're really, really trying. And yous will find a way to make it work, I promise. And this channel and this movement, I can't really say movement because it isn't yet, but I hope it would be, you know. I hope it will be a movement one day, that it will be kind of this mental health community on YouTube, where people can interchange and kind of exchange information, rather than just it being like a guy just unboxing toys. Because it's very nice, all the material stuff on YouTube, but at the same time, it's such a good platform to reach people, and the outreach possibilities. We could change actual health and mental health. We could change just by like giving out advice. You could change so many people's lives. It's proven with music. You can change people's lives with this stuff, with this media. And that's why I'm on this platform, in the hope, and I'm gonna work on it in the hope that I can build up a mental health community on YouTube who are there to help each other, rather than just shove material objects in your face, you know. That's all I've got for this video. I'm gonna go head to bed because it is late, and I always seem to make these videos late at night. So thank you so much for watching. I'll leave all the social links in the description below. Please, 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 please do click on one of them at least. Give me a follow, give us a like. I post content on there. I post all my new videos on there. If you want to be part of the mental family, hit the subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you do get notified, because YouTube's new way of doing stuff sucks. So thank you very much anyway. I'll see you guys in the next video.